Okay, so step one. This is kind of like reading a stone. It's not taking measurements, although it is nice to know what the measurements are, but this is not really about that. This is reading the stone. So I've got the stone next to the metal that I'm potentially going to use. That's a square section bit of wire, yeah. I'm imagining that being rolled out thin and then holding it next to the stone. Can I get the depth enough for making the collet? And can I reach that distance that I need while retaining the thickness that it's got to be a structurally sound collet? It's not just a finished collet as well, it's plus a little bit more because the claws need to be longer. That helps out setting. So what I'm doing is right at step one, literally picking it up off my peg before doing anything, I'm going through the whole job in my mind right up to the finishing stage of actually setting the stone with this collet. So how do you know what to do with the metal? Like, what is correct? Well, think about the collet, think about the finished collet. You don't want the culace sticking out the bottom of the collet. It's going to be uncomfortable for sort of ring or whatever. And then you need enough metal that goes up beyond the girdle so the stone can be set when it's a finished collet. So you want the collet turned up, nice cone shape with the stone sort of sitting in with a bit of metal above the claw so it can be set and then it can be cut down to what they need to be. This is going to be a ring, so it's going to have an under bezel. So I can literally, even though I just said you don't want the culace sticking at the bottom, I can get away with it a little bit because the under bezel's going on the bottom of the stone. But it's a very minimal amount, and think about if that's a ring, you might make the under bezel with a flat side. When it goes into the ring, you're going to have to file the bottom away, so you do lose a little bit of the depth, like coming up from underneath by putting that curve on. It's a very small amount, but it does happen. So if you are playing games with getting the stone as low as possible, do be aware that it's not just the bottom of your collet plus the bottom of your under bezel, it's those two distances minus, again, a bit of your under bezel as you file up underneath it. So again, just thinking ahead, what do you actually need? So when I'm judging my metal, just make sure I can mill that out and get the height I want. So to give you an actual measurement, what I would go for, because once that's all the distances I'm talking about, that's the finished distance. So I need actually more than that working with the metal. So I reckon if I make that 4.5, that gives me enough distance for making it, because all those distances I'm just talking about, that's the finished collet. Actually, the metal I'm working with is going to be like banged up and filed, and is going to have like plier marks around the outside and stuff, and the top's got to be filed, the bottom's got to be filed. So everything you do to it, you're losing the surface off the metal you got. I reckon just as a quick guide, 4.5, I reckon would be plenty for that size stone. 4.5 would be way too much. Looking at it now. 4.2. I reckon 4.2 for this stone, which is a 5mm, I think it was. 5mm. But this is where you've got to make things specifically to your stone that you're holding. That's like a brilliant cut CZ. Might not be that accurately cut. So just because the top is 5mm diameter doesn't mean I get a diamond that's 5mm diameter and then I can just use the same measurements. Might not work out. Diamond might be cut slightly differently, especially coloured gemstones. They're cut very fancy, weird, strange ways. So just go back to make your metalwork is specific to the stone you're working for, always, every time. You can't just write down these measurements and then expect them to work next time. It will cause problems for you. And just to emphasise the point, again, even more, just because I held my stone up against that and decided 4.2mm was what I'm aiming for, doesn't mean that 4.2 is definitely what I'm going to need. I may mill it out and then check the stone again and then change my mind on that. So you're just checking all the time, continuously, all the way through the job. You've got to know what you got and where you're going. Like, I can't just assume like, oh, okay, 4.2, and then just start milling it sideways, because I might not have enough length on this bit of metal. I have, but other bits of metal might not be enough. So I've got to make sure I've got the length enough and then start getting the width. Just goes back to checking it and knowing what I've got, and then that instructs me on what I should do next. So I'm actually gonna flatten this a little bit lengthways, just to start it off, get it a bit rectangle, and then go through sideways. So I'm happy with that length. That's enough length to do the collet, but you need extra to be able to hold it and bend it, because we've got to turn it into like a rainbow shape in a bit. I said 4.2, yeah, so I'm going to widen it a little bit and then check it again against my stone. So, off the mills, look at that, exactly 4.2 is good, wasn't it? Can't always do that. So that's the measurement I thought, just as a quick look. I like the look, I sort of like the look of putting that against it. Yeah, I don't know, I could do a little bit more. So it's good. It's good if you can get it right on the end, because obviously you've got the perspective difference and you're holding a stone in front of it. It does kind of cause an illusion on what height is what, two compared objects. So ideally get them side by side. So look at the end. Hang on, let's actually do it. Yeah, just a little bit more would be better. And then also looking at that has reminded me, when you're taking measurements and gauging distances and stuff on your metal, make sure you've got nice parallel ends. There's a chance you're milling metal through this way and that way. The ends can go, like the edges I should call them, go like parallelogram, so sort of wonky like that. Once you turn it to a collet, you're going to flatten it, so that might be giving you a certain measurement, but actually once you file them like more like that again, parallel, it reduces quite a lot. That can catch you out and cause you a problem that you weren't expecting. You thought you had enough metal, but you didn't. So anyway, yeah, a good example of why you should check it. I don't think 4.2 is enough. 4.3, 4.35, probably a little bit more suitable. So again, what I'm about to do next is concluded by what's going on with the measurements. It's just a little bit too shallow depth, but it's way too thick. So I don't have to worry really anymore about going through sideways. I'm not getting that extra thickness, that extra width by going through sideways, because when I squash it long ways, I get extra length, and then that will push it out a little bit wider as well. So definitely got the width, definitely got the length. It needs to go a little bit thinner, so I'm just going to run it through long ways. How thin do I want it? This is a mistake I've made many times in my career. I'm too scared of making metal too thin. But I hate a collet when it makes it harder to make, and it's just a more chunky, clumsy looking thing when you've got metal that's too thick. I literally think I could mill that down to 0.7 and it'll be good for this collet, for this size stone. Go up a little bit in thickness when the stones are big, but that's only a 5mm stone. The metal, it might not look like much. If I mill that out to 0.7, it might not look like thick enough, but once you turn it up into a collet, it almost seems to thicken up. Again, I'll just go down 0.9, I'll check it, a little bit thinner. I'm expecting to be 0.7, 0.75 will be correct for continuing with it. So anyway, I'll shut up now, I'll just do some milling, thin it out, and then show you what I think is correct. Okay, so did a bit of milling, checking the metal again. It's coming up 1 mil. Let's have a look against the stone. I know this is thicker than I want it to be anyway, but it's nice to know how much too thick it is. It's exactly way too thick. So I said 0.75, so that's going to be 3/4 of that. That will be approaching what I want it to be. To be honest, looking at it, having a stone next to the metal, I still think 0.75 might still be a bit thick. So anyway, I'll mill it down a bit more, see how it goes. Okay, so have a close look at it. Final decision. I think this is going to be good. It still could go thinner, but I'm going to leave it because, remember, I think I mentioned earlier, after it's a collet, it's going to be like plier marks and stuff, need to be papered off, and after polishing and stuff, after it's finished, it all takes the surface away. So it's a bit of a balance making collets and jewellery. You need thick enough metal to do the job. Thicker it is like a safety margin. You can, like, if you little scratches and stuff, you can take metal away and it doesn't go too thin. There's a balance between that and then being wasteful as well. I don't want it way too thick because then you're just filing it all away and turning it to dust. And as I'm sure you appreciate, gold's expensive now. I think just yesterday, time of making this video, well, what's the date today? It's Wednesday the 8th of October 2025. Gold just hit another all-time high. It was either this morning or yesterday. Currencies of all the countries all over the planet are all debasing, and people are putting their money into hard assets like gold and Bitcoin because they're good stores of value. Yeah, so Good news for investors and assets, people who invest in assets, but bad news for jewellers because everything costs more and we've got to pass it on to customers, so everything's going up. Diamond Matt channel, welcome. Start immediately by saying thank you to new patron. Who was it? It was Kieran Goodwin. Thank you very much, Kieran. Kieran's a classic level tier patron, which means he gets access to all the full instructional guides. There's between 35 and 40 now. I lost count, I have to recount them. Between 35 and 40 full instructional guides. They're like, my full instructional guides, if you don't know, are like between an hour and 3 hours or more long videos, and I take you from start to finish, like starting from a blob of silver up to completing like a cluster ring made exactly to the stones you're working on. Obviously you haven't got the stones I've got here, but I'll talk about why I'm doing, I'll show you what I'm doing, talk about why I'm doing it, and then give you advice on how to create something correctly for the stones you've got. So I'm really trying to train you up to be good jewellers basically. And who am I? I was a professional jeweller. I started my apprenticeship in 1996, so I got a few years experience, and I really enjoyed it. It was in my heart to get really good. I wanted to get good, and tried really hard, just kept my head down. I was always quiet, just getting on with my work, just the nerdy one that just did things really well. And I outgrew the first company I worked for. I kind of caught up. This sounds like a boast, so I don't mean it to be, but I caught up my skill level with the people who were teaching me within like a few years, and then I was just bored. So I still wanted to progress more. I knew I had potential to get even better. So I looked to get a job in London. So I did that. Luckily, I got a job working for a small company, but they specialise in really high-end bespoke handmade pieces. It's exactly what I wanted. No more repairs, only making stuff, and they trained me up. I thought I was good when I started there. Found out quickly I wasn't. They were leagues above me. So again, started again. I just basically threw away everything I knew and then just learned from them, learned their style, and they trained me up to a really high level. But I learned a lot, and I got good, basically, so I feel qualified enough to teach other people, certainly beginners and intermediate level. I can train you up to be good and the best you can. Through video forms, I'm making these videos as useful as possible to potential highly skilled jewellers, and anyone who's looking to dabble in it, just take it up as a bit of a hobby for a bit of fun as well. Got loads of content for you as well. Loads of free stuff on YouTube, but all my main teaching is on Patreon, so if you want to get access to that, it's patreon.com/diamondmount. There's a link in the description if you want to click on that. If not, just watch and enjoy. Here's a free YouTube video for you if you're dabbling in it. So this video is a continuation of one I did recently, a recent upload. I was talking about milling out metal for this stone. We're going to make a 6-claw, like Rex style collet. So that's my stone. This is my metal. So you've got the metal you want to turn into a collet. This is way too long, but I'm leaving it like that because I will use it in the future for another one. So no, I'm not holding my torch that way, I'm holding it this way, going along the piece. There goes done. I nailed it. Yeah, if you're holding your torch firing that way, you can do the job, but it's quite wasteful of your gas. You're also more likely to do a bad job and sort of be a patchy. Like that'll be really annealed, that bit you might miss a bit and then be really annealed again. If you just get the flame going along, you've got the maximum potential of all the heat. It's the minimum amount of gas you're using because it will do the job faster. Yeah, it's just better technique. So my stone is 5mm, I think it was. 5mm stone, 5mm diameter. My metal is 4.6-ish thickness, just under 0.7. 0.7. Yeah, 0.7. So it's quite thin. We're about to bend it into like a rainbow shape, yeah. Unfortunately, when metal is quite thin, especially when you're ratioed to depth or width, I should call it. No, we call that the depth. The depth to width ratio is quite extreme. Like you've got a real big width and the very shallow depth. Am I speaking English? It's much more likely to kink when you're doing this, so it gets a bit tricky, a bit iffy, but if it does kink, like suddenly sort of snaps out of position, twists, it's not the end of the world. It just means you've got to straighten it and re-anneal it. So you need a pair of half-round pliers. I like these big pair, which I made myself, but you can use these that you buy normally. I've never seen these for sale. Someone did tell me you can buy these, but I've never seen them for sale. But yeah, these are just bigger size, so just get some big pliers and make them. Just grind one side off rounded. That's all it is. Anyway, right, so Oh yeah, I've cut a groove in there as well to help exactly this scenario when I've got metal that's more likely to sort of suddenly snap and not literally snap, but like snap, twist out of position. Just helps stop that happening. So anyway, you've got the rounded side towards you, like locked in, nice and secure against the peg. Parallel pliers. What I'm doing, that corner and that edge there are levering the metal around this curve. Can you see straight away that wants to kink? So there's something I've got to be careful with. What I will do to help myself out is just bend it a little bit and then move along. Just a little bit, move it along. Just a little bit, move it along. Just a little bit. I think going from straight to the first curve is quite a tricky one, where it just wants to snap straight away. So I'm just working it gently, then I'll straighten it out, then go back along it. I might anneal it again, go back along it and just increase the curve. And then obviously just, I think I'll do the whole length of metal, just enough to make the collet. About that will do. With thicker bits of metal, less likely to kink, but much more difficult to actually bend. Can be quite a physical thing doing this. That's approaching really what I wanted to do. About as curved as I want it to be. You'll find, when you look at it, you want to get a nice even curve, yeah, you'll find the end bit will be straight, so you can't use that. And then you might have a nice curve, but when you really study it, one section will be straighter than the other. Mine's got a bit of a kink in the middle, sort of goes not curved, curved suddenly, not curved, and then curved again there. So I've got a bit of work to do on mine, ideally get a nice curve. Okay, so I think that will do for mine. The first bit straight, so I can't use that. I just want enough of a nice curve to obviously cover the length. I'll need to turn that up into a collet the correct size. And then that actual curvature, if you're interested, it's like the top of my ring stick basically. Said +5. Yeah, you haven't got to, but that's a basic guide, is the top of a ring stick. Knead it once more and then we'll turn it up. Right, kind of disclaimer, not really, but what I mean is I'm going to show you how to do this exactly how I do it. Other jewellers may do things a bit differently. Being a YouTube jeweller now, I get a lot of comments telling me I'm doing something wrong, or should have done this, should have done that, use this tool, that tool, whatever. If you do something different to me, doesn't mean I'm wrong, just means you do it differently. By all means, do you. Do things your way, I really don't mind. But for beginners, just be aware that there are alternative ways of doing things. That's why I recommend learn the same thing from different jewelers, and you'll pick up different ways of doing things, and you'll find different ways of doing stuff will suit you personally more. You'll get a better result out of yourself working a certain way. I've got different jewelers that taught me over the years. Some people, thinking back, I really didn't like how they worked, the way they set things up for soldering and stuff, the flames they were using, how they held files, and they were teaching me their way. I didn't like it at all. So I do remember what it's like learning from the early days. So I recommend you just don't take it too seriously what I'm showing you. Don't take it like I'm telling you what to do. Just watch and learn, take it or leave it. So right, that first bit was straight, yeah, so I'm gonna use that as a bit of no man's land. I can't use it, but it does have one use, is that's holding on to with half rounds and starting your curvature off. Then that can be cut off, where from a section where you've already got a nice curve. Getting a really nice curve right from the end. Let's try it on this bit. You've got to be careful, there's a risk of it slipping off like that. Sort of snips it and then you sort of damage the end of it. It's possible. No, it's still a little bit straight on the end. Maybe it's not even possible. Anyway, use that straight bit that you're going to cut off anyway to start your curve. So this metal's way too long. That was only really useful when I was holding it in pliers, using it as like leverage to leverage, I don't know how to pronounce that word. Yeah, when I'm actually tweaking it with pliers. I don't need that now, so I may as well just cut it off. Again, I'm going to leave a little bit of a flat there just in case. So that's done. Right, that makes it easier to work with now. It's a bit of metal, so I'm just going to cut off that straight bit, cutting it from where the curves begins to be nice. Okay, now these pliers are good for this job. You've got one snipe nose, one flat. That, when you buy these, that's actually plastic. That very quickly wears out and is no good. That's actually a piece of nickel, I believe, which is cut out, and I think I just glued it on. Oh no, there's a peg on that. Yeah, pegged it, hammered that down. Never been replaced, just showing wear, but there's been on there like 20 years. So that was a good move. Right, now you need to start paying attention to your stone. What I do is I just look at it. Can't hold it today. I just look at it, just get a quick glance at the type of curvature I might need, just to give me a bit of heads up. You're checking it, you're constantly picking it up and comparing it to your metalwork anyway all the time. Start that curve off. So starting that curve off and then checking it against my stone again. I can see, I want the stone to drop into it basically. So just around the girdle, so the stone falls into it. Next, I will learn this from experience, curve it half, and then start curving it from the other end, because it's easier to get that last bit of curve on back here. So start it off. And then close it up. See what I'm doing? Maybe some jewellers can do this really well. Mine never look that pretty when I get to this stage. I just want about the right amount of metal, more than I care about it being a nice, perfectly circular thing. So comparing it with stone, I know that I need to bend it from there a little bit. Let's close it up. I didn't curve it enough, so just before it's too closed, just get a curve on that last bit. Stone. I've only got one collet punch. Mine's quite a steep angle one. The more straight ones I actually really like. I don't know why I haven't got around to buying one yet. Which means, I just said that because I was thinking I could have curved it more. I said I curved mine to the top of the ring stick. Now I could have probably gone down a little bit, tightened up a bit more. That would have given me a bit more of a head start on actually putting it in my collet block, which is going to form it to that level of curvature angle. The Diamond Mounter channel is sponsored by nobody. If you're looking to learn to make jewellery, you've come to the right place. I've got almost 30 years experience being a top level professional jeweller. I was one of the best in the UK, but now since moving to Japan, I concentrate on sharing the skills. Everything I know, I want you to be able to do it too. So you can help the channel out by clicking like, you can subscribe to the channel. If you want to take it a step further, you can become a Diamond Mounter patron. It's patreon.com/Diamond Mounter. Also, there's a brand new online soldering course, links for that also in the description. Hope to see you there. Check it out. So to show you where I am with it now, I want the stone to be dropping inside because I need the collet to be taller than the top of the stone. So I've got metal to form the claws to enable my setting. Let's drop him right in there. It's still too big, obviously. Don't want the culé sticking at the back. But my collet is quite shut. I need to adjust him, but that's quite straight-sided. My punch, look, is going to punch it out like that. I really should have tightened up a bit more. I wasn't thinking ahead. My mistake. Right, anyway, so all that curvature, all that checking the stone was get the curvature kind of right, which I'm approaching the size it needs to be. Now I've just got to close it up so the stone drops down at the sort of height I need. So get the curvature, using the curvature of the stone as a guide to get me to this stage, and now I'm closing it up to get the size right. So I am gonna just open up a little bit so I can pull that in a bit tighter. Obviously, when you're judging your stone height, you want it to sit in there flat, which mine is not doing at all. Alright, cool. Right, I'm happy with that. I'm going to cut through it. Still too big. Perfect. That means I can cut through it, line it up nicely, cut through the join again, and hopefully get it to close up with a nice perfect join at the correct size so it can be soldered up neatly. So I don't know if I got that on camera. Just as I turned it off, that last scene I just filmed, there was like a ping, like something. It's like someone hitting something metal. I don't know what it is. I do the editing for these videos at night on a computer over there, and coming from over here somewhere, there's always, it's just often, sometimes, certainly not every day, just sometimes there's a kung, and it happened just then. I thought it was a ghost, and I was just like, okay, ghost, keep playing your tambourines, whatever you're doing. But it happened just now, first time in the daytime. So this is on top of the shelf. It sounds just like this. It's literally like someone picking it up and dropping it like that. When you get to this stage and you're going to cut through it, not always, but you want to cut through it. Make sure you're not cutting it too small accidentally. If you're going to cut it too big, you might want to wrap that metal right up so you can cut through both at the same time. I kind of get it. People do that. I don't really like doing it. I like sort of controlling where I'm cutting. So I like to cut just there and sort of skim down that join. But it is risky because if you go a bit wobbly, you might have to close it up to get that join tight, and then you made the collet too small. Up to you what you want to do. And then also I was going to say, depends on the metal, how much metal you had to roll up. I could cut it there. I might end up doing that. If not, sometimes this is the best option. This is where I would, again, just follow the end of the other line and then sort of cut up, skimming against it. So I just hold that in parallel pliers and cut from the inside. Just, at the end of the day, you just got to hold it securely so you can cut it precisely. I'm going to do it this way. I changed my mind. I'm going to hold it, I'm going to cut it from the inside, holding it upside down. Just to be awkward. The reason is because I cut that at not a good angle, so I want to see, I'm not cutting straight down the angle I'd like it to be. I'm cutting down, I've got to follow the angle of it, and it's a bit off. Oh, we got it, look at that. It's good, it's good. Now let's close it up. I think you should do it and make it too big on purpose and then adjust it down. Compare that to getting it too small on purpose and then having to start again. For me, wouldn't be too bad because I've already got that strip of metal ready to go. When you're working in gold and platinum, as I'm sure you're aware, mega expensive metals now, so you really got to be careful with it and not waste any and not make any stupid mistakes like accidentally cutting things a bit too short and having to start again. I think the price of silver will go up a lot as well, but it's going to be always going to be way more affordable than gold. I think gold was always, in history, gold was the store of value because it's worth so much, but it weighed so much, and then silver was the money. That's why Great British Pound was a pound of silver, wasn't it? Something like that. Okay, that horrific looking thing, let's double check it. Yeah, way too big. So too big, perfect, that's what I want to see. And then also that means I've got an opportunity now to correct my join. My join is a little bit wonky donkeys, so I can straighten it up now by cutting straight through it. I'll cut straight through it and then I'll chop a piece out because that's not going to size it down enough. Right, so straighten up a little bit. What I was doing is hooking it in the top and then just cutting it, trying to go straight down at the angle I wanted, which was skimming off more one side than the other, just to straighten it up. Right, next, check stone again, cutting it down. Stone's got to drop in, it still needs to be a bit smaller than what it is, so. If you're unsure how much to cut out, just cut out a very small bit and then notice what kind of difference it made. That's you learning from experience. Close it up. Again, closing it up is also an opportunity to make it more round. Like I said before, mine are always pretty scary looking at this stage. But as long as it's round enough, you can understand the size of it comparative to stone. You have to imagine it a nice curvature, tightened right up. Is that going to be correct for the stone? Dropping in now, let's straighten up a bit. Okay, I would like it to sit a bit lower than that, but it's not perfectly round. Once I get that perfectly round, it'll drop down a lot more. But also, I'm thinking ahead, mine's much straighter than that. When I put that in the collet punch, that's going to open up the top way too much. So what I think I'm going to do is, rather than punch it out, I will mainly be focusing on this end of it. I will try and push that down into a hole rather than put it in one where it already fits and then punch it out. I want to control the top half. I don't really care about the bottom half. I'm happy for that to get smaller, not bigger, because that'll straighten out even more. Happy for that to get much smaller, but I don't want to adjust the top too much. So anyway, I've got to a stage where I will solder it up and then start tapping it. So I think tight joins are really important on collets. I've never heard anyone say that on YouTube on their jewellery making instructional videos. Really important. It's not like structural integrity too much, but it's just looks. It's just so much work to make things to a high standard. It's such a shame if you made something really fit in perfectly and everything's all beautiful and symmetrical, and then there's just a solder line down one side because you had a crappy join and it had to like fill up a gap with solder, and then after polishing, after it's all finished, it shows up. What a balls up. Take some time to get a really good join. It will be stronger. It'll take less solder to actually fill the join. You're more likely to get solder in the join. It'll be an easier experience. It'll be neater. The piece will be stronger. Less likely to have a join showing up after polishing. It's just win-win-win all the way with tight joins. So, tight join, please. Depending on what metal I'm working on will affect my decisions on how to go about this. In platinum, I would be holding my collet closed like that in tweezers, just gently, just clamping it. That ensures the join stays really closed after heating. Do you know when metal gets hot? I think anything gets hot, it expands. When metal gets hot, noticeable expansion. That can open up your join. It's going to be really minimal, but it is going to happen. It is there. It is happening. So you can eliminate that by just having a little bit of tension on it as you solder it. In silver, can't do that. I'll just put it on the charcoal block in front of me, because silver goes so soft when you get it hot, approaching red hot, approaching like, gotta use hard solder especially. Yeah, the higher temperatures, red hot, just goes so soft. Any pressure on it at all with tweezers will just squash it out of shape. that'll ruin the shape, not only the shape, ruin the join, it'll open it up, and you're basically going back to like ages ago, things you would have done earlier on in the day, trying to get it all lined up and curved nicely in the right size and shape and stuff. You're right back to reshaping it, and you've got no space for cutting it at all. So a ball's up if it goes that shape of soldering. So silver, you've got to be a bit more gentle with it. Just like that. That was super neat. Wow. There you go, the benefits of a tight join in action. Look at that. Perfect. So the continuation of benefits from tight joins goes on. That solder join was really neat, yeah. So there's hardly any like work to do around the outside of that collet. There's no big lump of messy solder I've got to file off. Less work, I'm working faster and making a higher quality piece along the way. So that's my collet ready to go, just been in the acid. Just having a quick look again, my stone. That one, imagine the thickness of the metal. Like imagine my collet being in there. That one's gonna be way too small, so it's got to be that one. So let's get that pushed down into there. If you're working alongside other jewellers, tell them you're about to start whacking stuff, or just have a look, make sure they haven't got something delicately balanced in position they're about to solder. It's just workshop etiquette. Anyway, a thin walled bit of silver is only 0.7 mil. Quite easy to go in there, look. And then if I pull that out and look at it, the bottom half will be much smaller. See how that's reducing. Obviously I can only tap it down until my hammer's hitting the surface of that. So after that, then I can put the punch in. I try and rotate it, because you know you're holding it at a certain angle. You might be tending to lean it to one side more than the other. So just eliminates any accidental weird angles you're putting on it. And then one thing I'll mention as well, can you see how part of it looks polished, part of it doesn't? That's where it's hitting, that metal's hitting that metal, where it looks polished. So I haven't really tapped it there yet. Not the end of the world, but you may as well keep whacking it until you got the whole thing looking like that, looking polished. Here we go. Just checking the size of it with my stone. I wanted to drop down in there. Perfect. So I want a bit of height above the stone. So I've got long, extra long claws, which helps me set in. And then obviously I don't want the culace sticking out the back of it. And then the depth goes back to my previous video. You should check that out before doing this. I was working out the distances of that. And I mentioned in that video, getting to this stage, you need more than you need. You need more, not just because you want metal above the stone, but you need more because that top and that bottom are not like nice and flat. I need to file those now, so I'm losing dimensions continuously as I work on this. So that top and that bottom need to be filed flat before I can continue with it. Because without those flat and parallel, I don't really have a guide to make it accurately. I need to work, I use those angles to judge my claws going straight up and down and stuff. So next step is important. Now there's me, Mr. 25-30 years experience, trained up to top level jeweler. I learn from people just writing things in the comment section still. That's what I really enjoy about this trade, is you can just learn little things all the time and they help you out. Someone mentioned, got to this stage of one of my videos years ago, and someone said they just leave it in here and then file the top, and then that way they know it's like parallel with the side supported by that, and then they file it directly on top. Brilliant idea, never thought of that. So I do that for now. I do that now. It's not immediately easy because it spins around as you're filing it, but it certainly helps you out. And yeah, it might be a bit bad for your file, but for how helpful it is, I think it's great. So yeah, spinning around there. Just get a coarse file, just work around it, and that's quite. Without that, this is quite tricky to do. Trying to hold it and file it and get it just right, you will find it very easily goes one way or the other. Obviously you want that straight to the center, going straight down to the center of that one. So now that one's good, that was quick and easy to get that just right. I now use that as a guide. I just hold the other side with whatever pliers, probably those. Just hold that in there if I can. And then looking at that one I just filed, just match it. And I don't try and do the whole thing at once. I rotate it, just work on the edge that's closest to me. So you need that depth enough until after you've done this, then the stone sat in there flat, straight, should have enough metal above it for setting, and then not be sticking out. It could be really close to the bottom, but I would say you don't want it sticking out, even though an under bezel is going on there as well. Okay, I think we got that. So next, the metal block test. Do this a lot when I'm making collets. You want to be able to put it down, the whole thing is flat to the surface when you rotate it, and then that cone is going straight up. You may find if you file it wrong or you make it wrong, you didn't like hammer it enough in there, because that's trustworthy. You can hammer it right into that cone and that should straighten it out. If you don't hammer it enough, or you file it wrong, the cone won't be going straight up, it'll be going slightly wonky like that. And you can't continue with your collet if it's wonky like that. It looks terrible. It's just gonna, looking at it from the side, if you continue with it, the collet will just have one like vertical side and one sticking out straight to get the stone in there properly. It looks horrible and it's very difficult to hide if you're putting it in a ring or something. It'll just look terrible. So this is an important part of making a collet, is actually before any claws or anything are cut out, it's just the base, the foundation of it. That's this. It's got to be good. It's got to be nice flat top and bottom, that cone going straight up. This is the one I just did by hand. Let's have a look at it. Again, you want to be rotating it, making sure it's like a nice straight thing. Looks pretty good. So this is how I do it, how I mark out 6 claws. Print it out, circle divided by 6, so then I got dividers, stuck it right in the center, and then drew some circles around it. Are they showing up? That just helps me line that up directly in the middle. I can see that dot through the top anyway, but it's important that you don't have it one side or the other. You want it directly central, and those circles that I drew around there help me as well. And then I just mark the 6 positions. I got that there because, again, ages ago I did a video on this. It's an ER collet. It's like a chuck for a lathe. I ground it out to put the collet in. It sits in there nicely, but when I look at it, like top bottom, all the lines seem to go to the left hand side of my center, always. Not just this collet, all of them. It's likely I ground it out slightly wrong, so nice idea, doesn't really help me at all. So just back to this tried and tested method of piece of paper with the lines drawn on.
everything in one place. It also makes it easier to prototype, share, and collaborate.
The Diamond Mounter channel is proudly sponsored by nobody. If you're looking to learn to make jewellery, you come to the right place. I've got nearly 30 years experience making jewellery to a professional level, and I specialised in hand making bespoke pieces to the highest level. So tell you what, I help you out learning to make jewellery, and then you can help me out by simply just clicking like on this video, subscribing to the channel. You can become a Diamond Mounter member, take it a step further, become a Diamond Mounter patron, link in the description, patreon.com/Diamond Mounter. You get a shout out on the next upload, and then you get access to now, and it's still growing, 35 full instructional guides. These are start to finish, complete, step-by-step guides on making individual pieces. The bottom half has to be accurate in the 6 positions as well, and this is only possible if you were good with your claws. Like so, that one, our little cut goes up in line with that claw, then the saw blade goes directly across the centre and then lines up with the claw the opposite side. Did it again on the other one. And that's why I kept taking it out and changing. I do that one, turn it around, do the opposite side, making sure it's going across the middle and making sure it's lining up with the claws. And that should work on all of them. Mine's pretty good, but in the past I have done them and noticed there's a little bit wrong. So just cheated a little bit and pulled the cut across a touch. You can get away with it, like a tiny amount, but then you're closing the distance between that one, say that one, and the one next to it, which increases the distance on the opposite side. So if you've got to do that a lot, it messes everything up. So really important to be accurate with these collets and the claw positions and stuff. Okay, it's a little bit forgiving. You can get away with a little bit of inaccuracy with a 6 claw collet that's going in a shank. Because especially that bottom half, those V's are they're so small, it's not too obvious to the naked eye when it's hitting that under bezel. But when it's, like say that's the claws, yeah, probably a shank most often. The ends of the shank go in between the claws. If one of the claws is, let's say that one's slightly up, closes that distance, increases that distance, and then that means you've got to kind of play with the shank going that way a little bit, or thinner one side than the other, and then, or rotating it a little bit. It just gets messy really quick, so I highly recommend. I've said this the entire time. We're doing this YouTube channel for like 5 years or more now. The entire time, I've always said, you're much better off working slowly to get a higher level of accuracy, and that will enable you to finish the job faster. It's much quicker to just work slowly and do it well than to work quickly, get it wrong, and then just fight with adjustments and illusions trying to get everything to look good when it's not. Do it properly. Go slowly and do it properly. If I was employing someone, I would much rather they took way more time and did it nicely first attempt without having to repair the piece over and over again as they proceed through the job. Okay, so that's it for this video, stopping at the stage where I'll be making an under bezel next, but that's all I'm doing in this video. As suspected, nowhere near my best work. I mean, where I worked in London, yeah, that collet looked pretty good, yeah. Have a look around it, it's all accurate. You've got 6 claws, got the right amount of claws, it's all relatively alright. That collet is nowhere near good enough for where I worked. They would pick holes, I mean, I'm picking holes in it just looking at it from a distance here. That claw nearest me is like thicker than that one next to it. Look at the curves. Let me see if I can point to it. Look at that. Let's rip into it as though I was me employing myself. Look at that curve there. Look at the curve. That's difficult to get that right. I didn't really try to match them all up. Bit of a kink there on that one. Bit of a flat spot there. Let's go on the next one. That one looks sharper than that one. That one looks lower down and rounder. That one's a bit messy on the right hand side. Again, stop looking at the claws. That claw looks fat. That one looks like it's bending down sort of that way a little bit. Okay, moving on. Now that you've got your perfectly made collet all correct and all smooth and nice, just to mention, like I always say this, if I'm working in gold and platinum, before an under bezel goes on, I would polish it all out. I'd get like bristle brushes in my micromotor and just carefully polish it all out. It makes a big difference on the overall effect of a finished piece. It really raises the quality if it's all polished out on the difficult to reach parts. The big difference between a handmade piece of jewellery and like single piece castings that are just like barrel finished and stuff, they all look rough and horrible inside when you look in all the nooks and crannies. Handmade pieces, you've got the opportunity, while all the parts are individual, you've got the opportunity to polish them all out before they go together, and that really raises the quality of the finished piece. Anyway, yeah, under bezel, let's make one. There's my collet, say, whoopee whoopee, that's all the claws. Last time I did this job, quite recently, I decided to do a straight-sided collet under bezel, just like parallel sides. It's easier to make, and that's just what I decided. When it was finished, I felt like it just looked a bit blocky. It didn't help, I left it a little bit too deep as well. So if I did, that's left me thinking now, if you do a collet, if you go for like straight-sided ones, go a little bit thinner than what you would do if you were going for a tapered side one. Just a thought, like just little things, just like our skills and the way we make things evolve over time, over the years. That's just what I've got in my mind. You can get away with a greater depth if you're tapering the sides. Maybe, I don't know. I might make one and then slightly deeper with tapered sides and then still decide that it looks too thick. I don't know, a little bit give and take on what you want to do and what you want to achieve and what kind of shank's going on there and stuff. But one thing that is always true, for a ring anyway, you've got a collet going in a ring. After you've got the collet on a bezel, you're filing out underneath to round it off. You can solder it in as neatly as you want, but at the end of the day you're going to file it out, so you lose a little bit of height comes up. It's always like very minimal unless you set it too low in the shank, but it's a tiny amount, but it is there. So I consider that when I'm setting the stone height as well, being careful not to go too low. You might want it really, really low, because you can literally make a collet with the stone sitting so low it comes out the bottom of the collet, and you've still got a chance to save it by having an under bezel underneath, but then remember that your under bezel does get filed up from underneath as well. So yeah, you really don't want the point of that stone sticking out the bottom, so just be wary of that being a problem. Yeah, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for a tapered one this time. I've just been milling out this bit of metal, just trying to find what I think is correct, what looks correct for that. A little bit, you don't know. It's always different, really. I can't give you a measurement, like a percentage of the height or anything. It doesn't really work like that. Depends what shank is going on there, what design shank and the thickness and stuff, and the size of the collet, shape of the stone and stuff. There's all affects what it is. I'm starting with 1.25, my bit of metal, which still looks a little bit thick, but I like to work like that. Because obviously you can always take metal away, but you can't add it. I actually think that's correct. 1.25, 1.2 perhaps for that. That's collet for a 5mm round brilliant cut stone. So this is quite important before moving on. You want to put your collet on a metal block and just look around it, rotate it, make sure all the V's are touching the bottom, because there is a chance one's lifted up. So we're going to cut out a little disc, basically, out of a piece of metal. So I need a measurement to aim for. I reckon 4.2, 4.3 for my one. Yeah, again, slightly bigger is better. You can always take metal away, you can't add it on. So I'm going to go for 4.25 in between what I just saw. So I'm going to draw a little circle on my metal to cut out. I need to know what's the radius. What's half of 4.25? 2.12.5. 2.12.5, let's go. That'll do. So here's how I do it. I always complain about this. Dividers should have a little digital display on them, so you can get a proper measurement. But they don't, so here's how I do it. I set my calipers to the distance I want. I get my 2 times magnification, hold my dividers right up to it, put that in my eye, and then just look really closely and then just match up the points. Again, this would not do if you're building an engine, but for jewellery, it's close enough. There you go, 2.12.5 exactly. Before you cut anything out, especially if you're working in gold, have a look at it. Just have a look, make sure you like. Let me line up a bit better. You've got your dot in the middle as well, that helps you centralise it. Just want to see that line around the outside. Mine makes my under bezel look too big. Perfect. It's got to be cut out. I might go a little bit on the line, so after I round it off again, it'll reduce the size. I'm going to be hammering it about and filing it and buffing it and polishing it, so you need something a touch too big on purpose. So whether you want your sides like tapered or straight, just cut it out straight. You'll do a better, neater job than trying to be all fancy, doing a perfect circle while holding the saw blade at an angle. At a continuous same angle as you go around a circle. I think that's really, really difficult to do, not even worth trying. What's much easier is to cut out straight and then file that angle on. Just looking for my parallel pliers. Okay, just chop it out. It's already too big, but I'm going to cut to the outside of the line as well. The saw blade's a bit weird to control. It was pulling right, and then I tried to straighten up, and it wouldn't. Come on, turn. This is a terrible example of sawing. Some days you may find things just don't work, or just what you think is going to happen doesn't happen. This saw blade won't turn left. Ah, brilliant. Come on. I swear I can't control this blade at all. Come on. Here we go. Left. Left. Look how much I'm turning it left, and it's going straight. Weird. Can you see the line I'm cutting? Is that showing up on camera? I'm making a right mess of this. This is one of the weirdest to control saw blades I think I've ever used. Well, that was fun. Okay, so my weird shape under bezel has just rounded off to my line. Parallel pliers again. Just file it. You can file that way. I save that for the last little touch. I do all the work getting it to the line by filing across it that way. So what I do is I file it basically round to my line. My line was already too big and I filed like up to that line, so I know it's too big, but I put the collet on it and then I get my 10 times loop and I want to know how much too big is it. It might be surprisingly close to what you want, or usually what happens is, as you expected, it's too big. So I've got to reduce the size down a little bit now, so I'm just going to carefully file. I've got my line, I can see dividers. I'm going to file to the other side of that line, to the inside of it, and concentrate on keeping it circular as well, because obviously I'm removing the line. So I just want to mention this like cylinder block. It's hollowed outlet. It's a proper tool for like watchmakers and jewelers. It's so useful for checking collets. Just having something small and circular, I can, for exactly this moment, I'm checking the size and the curvature of my under bezel. I just line it all up, have that in front of me, and then I've got my 2 times loop in my eye, and I can just look at it and rotate it and just check I like the size of it. So it hasn't got to be that. I recommend, oh my god, that was a ghost, push my camera over. Yeah, I recommend getting a cylinder. Hasn't got to be anything like specific for jewelers. Don't spend a load of money, but find something in a hardware store or something. Just can be plastic, anything. Just it's really useful to have a cylinder to be able to just with a flat top to be able to check collets, curvatures. Like I used it for when I put that collet down, touch it on that. I can look at it closely and rotate it, make sure all the bottoms are all touching. And same with my under bezel, putting that on top of it. And I can rotate it and look around, making sure I like the size of it. Useful cylinder, get one. So I want to put tapered sides on it to match the collet, and you might think, cool, well you made the collet in that collet block, why not just put that in the collet block and tap it down? Yeah, great, if you can find a hole that fits. That one's going to be too small, that one's going to be too big, can't be hammered down into it. I would love to make my own range of diamond mounting tools. I've tried to make it happen out here in Japan, but no one's interested in helping me out. Japanese, yeah, when it comes to doing business with foreigners, they really are not interested. I'm seeing this, I'm saying all this because look at all that space there. There could be literally easily double the amount of holes, all different sizes. Could all be the same tapered sides, I just want different dimensions. Gives me more choice. I just want in between those two. That should just be covered in cone shaped holes. It's not, because no one designed it properly for jewelers. So anyway, because of the racism of the Japanese, I now need to find something else to tap this into to make it circular. So I like to check my doming blocks, see if there's something I can use. Perhaps that one, maybe that one. You just want the edge, you're not really forcing it in there, you just want the edge to touch. So that gets the edge perfectly circular, and then that gives me the best possible chance to file a nice tapered side around. I've never done this before, I don't think it's worth it, but if you really want to go for it and get in this edge like really perfectly, you could get your dividers, my dividers have disappeared, but you could get your dividers and then draw a line that's parallel to the outer edge and then use that as a guide to make sure you get the same angle from one side to the other all the way around. I think it's a little bit overkill. Just file it. It's relatively easy to do a good job, even job all the way around, so just do it by hand, and I would learn to do it that way. You're sort of practicing a skill that's useful in jewellery making, not just following lines, actually learning to do something accurately just by eye. Okay, next little bit of advice comes from experience making jewellery over the years. You know, you've got a dot in the middle of it where the dividers went to draw the circle before you cut it out. I would solder that on and I would solder it on with that on top, so you can see it looking down through the collet, because when that's joined together, it's a nice little guide for a drill to go through. Just pretend that's a drill. To drill through from that side. Why does that matter? Because the claws are safe pointing up. If that was the other way around, there's more danger holding it that way up and then pushing it against a peg and drilling it from that way. You're more likely to bend a claw accidentally. Not necessarily, and obviously you can, even if you solder that on with the dot underneath, you can always just put a dot through on the top. Whatever, it's just convenient, isn't it? It's just already there, just use it, solder that on that way. There you go, ready to go. Up to you. That's just how I've worked over the years, just what I've come to. Okay, so anyway, dots on top, parallel pliers. Let's get that angle on. So you want to match the angle all the way around. Just rotate it a bit, file it a bit. Rotate it a bit, file it a bit. Look at what you're doing, what's happening as well. So that's all the way around now. Looking at it from the side, do I like that angle? You want to increase it. You can only really increase it. If you decrease it, you're taking metal off the top again. You're making the whole thing smaller, so be careful. There you go, there's a terrible spot there. That needs tilting in a little bit. So that's what I just filed by hand. It's not perfect, but it's a good start. Just go around it. It's a bit rough and ready, but it's there. It's at a stage where I want to check it on the collet, so I'm checking it on the collet. It's difficult to line it up nicely for you, but yeah, just put the collet on, rotate it around. I'm sort of checking the size of it. I know it's not on there straight. Yeah, checking the size of it and that angle as well compared to the angle of the claws. Does it look good? Not necessarily got to match it the same, but it's got to look good. So either you want to taper it steeper in on purpose, or not quite as much, or match it exactly. Up to you on your design. I suppose you could check it again in your collet block. It might sit in there quite favourably, giving the opportunity to round off that bottom half. But whatever, when you're happy with it, get those sides smooth. This smooths out the file marks, and it helps with any inconsistencies with the curvature. Okay, so now's the fun bit. We're gonna solder the under bezel, or solder the collet to the under bezel. What I do is I flux over the whole top of the under bezel. Just papered it lightly with a buff stick. And then just get flux over the whole thing. Not too sticky, nice thin, clean bit of flux. So soldering gives the most examples of working in nice precious metals are surprisingly easier than working in silver. You'd think working in silver's a bit of a beginner's metal because it's cheaper and whatever. Actually, if you can make the kind of things that I'm teaching, like proper diamond mounting, if you can make them completely in silver, it's a really pleasant experience when you move on to 18 karat gold and platinum. Platinum especially is so much easier to solder. Solder's way better behaved. In 18 karat, it just stays really clean and nice, when silver will tarnish under heat and cause problems for another solder somewhere else, or working on the same solder again if it didn't quite work out second time. Third time, fourth time gets almost impossible because the metal just oxidizes so much under heat. 18 karat gold and platinum doesn't do that, it stays clean, so it's easier to solder. And it stays harder under extreme heat as well. It gives you the options of pinching things together. Anyway, right, I'm kind of complaining. That's me subtly complaining about working in silver. But I can get it done, watch me. So just dip that in my flux. It might be a bit too fluxy. Drop that on there. Right, the whole thing is fluxed as it is. So now I just push it into position. Then I'll gently warm it up and hopefully it sticks together, because the flux does help you out a little bit. It does act like glue in these moments. You need all the help you can get. I'm not gonna film me doing it because it might take 10 minutes, but I will recommend doing this. Look down on it. Again, that's why I like this watch eye makers. You can sort of, the 10 times loop is too close. It's too close, and you need your hand. I'm hands-free with this, and it's back a little bit. So the focal range is better, and it's close enough to line things up. So I line it up, looking straight down on it. And you can get it really good, like that. Then I crouch down, I look at it from the side, again with my 2 times loop, and just move around it. And you've got to be really careful with it, even like moving the charcoal block that it's sat on, just that gentle vibration can upset it. Yeah, looking at it from here, I can see it needs to shift across that little bit, that way a little bit. So then I'll go back to here. Yeah, I can see that it's doing that, looking down on top. Just carefully nudge it. I mean, I nudged it too much because I wasn't careful enough. It's really careful work to get it right. So take your time and stay in a good mood about it, because it can be more troublesome than you'd imagine. I would use medium or easy. You might be tempted to go for easy, but for me, easy solder doesn't seem to behave as nicely as medium. But yes, medium melts at a slightly higher temperatures, perhaps there's a bit more risk on the claws or something. I don't know. My experience is with easy, it's not going where I want it to when I've got it under heat. It's like just balling up, it's not moving, so I'll put a bit more heat on. I end up just heating up the piece hotter than if I was using medium anyway. So it's not always the case that you can complete a solder with a lower temperature. But I know jewelers have different experiences with different things, so do your own experiments. That's why experience is worth so much. So this first solder, under bezel collet solder, is by far the most troublesome. It's the most risky, it's the most tricky to do, because it takes so much effort and care and attention to line it up correctly, and then actually applying that piece of solder on, you'll quite likely of moving it accidentally, and then you'll go back to letting it cool down and then line it all back up, and then just to get back to this stage again. So you've got to be really, really careful with this first solder. Second one is luxury. It's held together. You just got you could hold it up in the air and stuff. It's much easier, the second solder. This first one is tricky, so be very careful. All your solders, small amount of solders, the same amount of solders, and all solders should be really neat as well. Just to add the pressure, just to pile it on. Apply it with a brush, don't apply it with tweezers, you're just going to knock it out of position. Again, I do this with magnification and just touch it on. Really, really gently. Even the bristles on this brush are a bit too stiff for this. I feel like I'm knocking it about. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit of heat on the collet, and then that will help. That will help the solder stick to the metal rather than my brush. It's not really letting go as easy as it should. But again, the bristles on that brush are a bit stiff for this. I'm just warming it up. That'll do. Let's try that again. Nice watery bit of flux, not sticky. Okay, that was a little bit hit and miss. It started to go up the claw. I just push the flame into the charcoal block a little bit so there's more heat sort of bouncing off it and going straight up. I just managed to rescue it, but yeah, I did get solder going up the claw, up the actual collet. Let's have a put in the acid and let's have a close look. So I'll show my dodgy solder. Where is it? There. You see it's gone up the sides of the collet. So that solder is a bit more messy than I would have liked, but it's on there permanently now and it's holding strong. I always do this test as well. When I've got one solder on, I double check his position. So a good way of doing that is rotating it, and what I'm doing is I'm keeping an eye on that top edge. Hello, focus. I'm keeping an eye on that top edge of the under bezel, and as I rotate it, it should maintain the same. If that's perfectly circular and directly central, it should hold that edge. That should be the same all the way around. Much easier now, but you still have to work really carefully. Obviously, you don't want to melt a claw accidentally, and you don't want solder being messy or go in the wrong place like I just did. So I'm not going to film all this. It's the same thing over and over, 6 solders, or like what I just did. But I just put a bit of solder on there. Just want to show you that's about the right size bit of solder. It's quite small. Look. If that floods in correctly, that'll be a nice neat join. No blobs around the outside or blocking up those little triangle holes underneath. Aim for about that. I think that's correct. So I took out the acid. I was checking it. One of them wasn't soldered properly, so I just added a bit more. It was actually a bit too little solder on it. Sort of pulled through and didn't fill it up. So hopefully this is my last solder. Oh. So just chuck that in acid, hopefully for the last time now. Feels like I've been to the acid back like 20 times just because not all the solders work first time perfectly. Sometimes you have 2 attempts and it gets a bit sort of tarnished, so you have to clean it up and then try again. So a little bit more work than really what it should be. 6 solders, it's never as easy as doing 6 solders. There's always a lot of trouble. And I've said before in my videos, solder is my least favourite aspect of making jewellery. It's not like I hate it, but I just find it most tiresome in exactly these scenarios when you've got to do tiny little solders. It's really important that you don't overflood it or you get solder going the wrong way and having accidents with it. It's such careful, highly attentive working to the best of your ability, highest skill you can muster, and it doesn't feel like you've done much. Like you can spend an hour, 2 hours or whatever, if you're having a bad day, even longer than that. And by the end of it, you've just joined 2 bits together. It doesn't feel like you've done a lot, but it was quite a task to actually achieve it. Okay, so back out the acid, just judging it. Let's see if we can hold this in focus. That one there, textbook. Next one, textbook. Next one, I think that was the first one I did. The solder flooded up the collet, so it was a bit of a mess, but the actual solder join's all right. Then it all goes downhill from there. It's all messy, multiple attempts, solder running up the collet and stuff. A bit of a blob there. It looks like it needs flooding in a bit more. So the job is done. That was a struggle more than usual. I swear it's because I'm recovering from a cold. I just haven't quite got the attention on the close up to details. My timing and distance is a little bit off compared to what it normally is. Anyway, the job's done. I'm going to go round it now with... There's a needle file I used last time I did this job and it was really good. Let me find that. It's quite a new needle file, but quickly it looked 20 years old. But anyway, the teeth, they're fine teeth. They're quite sharp still. The edge is really sharp. So it's a nice lightweight, agile file. Because that edge is quite sharp, I can get right down without disturbing the under bezel. Just take back the solder, get that flat to the sides of the collet, and then I'll touch it up with a ridgy disc. You know what I mean by ridgy disc? This is literally the one I used for doing the U's. I made it thinner basically, and then put a curve on it. I've worked on it more since then, so that's what I used to go in there. That's a nice delicate one. It's useful now for going around here, just touching it, just getting the solder lumps and bumps gone basically. Then we're ready to drill it out. There's my dotlet, nice and useful. Put a drill through that, and then we've got to make a shank. Okay, so went round it with that needle file, the rubber disc, ridgy disc, and then also I folded up just a 1000 grit, this is 1000 grit paper. Just folded it in half and just zinged around it just to sort of touch the top of the under bezel. Okay, earlier on making this I made a bit of a hoo-ha about having the point that you left behind in the metal from using the dividers to cut out that under bezel. I made a point of like having it like on the top, the collet goes on top of it, because when you get to this stage, drilling it out, it's there. I do prefer drilling it out with the collet that way up, it's just safer on the claws. You can totally do it that way. You could probably hook the edge of the under bezel on there and hold it securely, drill through it. Still a bit of a risk to hold it tight on the claws, you don't want to bend them out of shape. So I do still think that's better, but my dip from the dividers isn't directly in the middle anyway, so I've had to put a ball burr in my micromotor anyway just to move that across to the centre, which means even if that one was on that way, I'd still be deciding to drill it through the top and then having to put the ball burr in and actually start that dip fully anyway, so it hasn't really made a difference to me so far. And if that dip was on the bottom, it's going to be drilled away anyway, going through that way, and even if it was there, likely again wouldn't be directly in the centre, so I'd still need a ball burr. So just going to show, with experience doing the same thing over and over again, just sometimes, not making these like day in day out, but over the months and years go by, you make a few of them. Just going to show, so look at an example of how the way you make things evolves over the years. Like last time we did one of these, I thought it was quite important to have that dip on top. Getting to this stage now with this one, doesn't really feel like it mattered. So next time I make one, I just won't care. It's just whatever, however it lands in my hand, will just be made however. I won't really pay attention to it. I will recommend those. Going through it with quite a small drill, quite a thin drill. Because if you do wonk off to the left or the right, it doesn't really matter. Also, you do get illusions, like it's all handmade. It might look really good. You might actually still have the collet on slightly one side or the other. So you think of drilling it through the middle from the centre of the collet, but when you actually look at it from the other side, it might be a bit wonky. Anyway, start with the drill one, it eliminates any potential problems. You can relax a little bit about it going through wonky, or even you think you're doing it dead straight, but it still looks wrong. Because when you've got a small hole, you can just open it up however you need to make it look central on the other side. There you go, that looks really central from there. You can find out with me. Turn it over. A little bit off, it's not terrible, but it definitely looks worse that side than the inside. So I'm just going to move it on to small ball burr. I'm going to carefully open that up. This doesn't appear to be very sharp. It would be helpful if it was. Must be sharp. It's a nice tungsten one. Doesn't feel sharp though. Oh, it gets hot. You want them sharp, yeah, because it stops you needing to push as hard, because I'm holding it upside down, like I said I don't like doing, because there's a risk to the claws. So when you open up this hole, you've got to do it, you want to keep an eye on it. You don't want to just put through, you don't want to open up from that side, because it may come out the other end looking terrible. Getting very hot. With experience, you'll find your fingertips get good at resisting hot, sharp bits of metal. You never stop experiencing pain though, really, totally. I'm gonna open it up a little bit more. Basically, I think, or should I leave it like that? You can, do you know what I might do? No, I'm going to open up a bit more. Sometimes I choose to open it up, but not fully. Wait until it's in the ring shank, then I open it up to what I think looks right against the shank. But that's a bit extreme. I'm going to open up a little bit more before I do that. maybe just leave myself a little bit of work for finishing it off, making it perfectly round, perhaps open it up a little bit more when it's in the shank. It's a little bit too small. Okay, I just opened it up to that, so still a bit thick. I just want to say I'm going to chuck it in a barreler now. I'm not about to polish it properly, but it's going in the barreler while I sort out some editing and then organise the metal for the shank. Okay, so the shank, I don't have exact instructions, so I'm going to just do what I like the look of. So I'm going to go for quite a thin shank, because it's not a huge stone, but with solid shoulders going up. I'm going to do a tap-up style. So what I'm going to do is leave that section in the middle quite thick, and then just mill the sides so that goes thinner. Turn it up into a ring, so the join is like at the back. That thicker section, that extra metal, I can put on the block. When it's a finished ring, I can tap it and then stretch it up, and that will give me that kind of knife edge look, which will form my shoulders. Okay, so just milled it down quickly, just did it in the mills, not in the square draw plate. So about 1.7, look. Yeah, just off square. So about that for a 5mm stone collet. That's loads. Yeah, that's just right to a little bit too much. Good, really. I like working like that in the safety zone. So now I'm gonna anneal it again. I'm gonna mill it and just leave like that little section in the middle, that thickness. The rest of it will be a bit thinner. Joko, soko ni sawaru, abanai desu. Abanai yo. He wants to sit on my shoulder instead. Okay, come on, get down. Okay, this I think is way too long. Obviously it depends on your finger size, but 50mm is loads. Oh guys, 70, that's way too much. I'll leave it. But working in gold and platinum, be careful with wastage. Because it's going to get longer as well. I'm about to mill it out. Yeah, but you don't need a lot in the middle. I mean, literally that, I think, is quite a lot. So this is what I tend to do. I use my marker pen, just roughly mark the sides. And then when it's in the mills, you've got the rollers on top of it and below it. You can just look from the side and see where your mark is. Only really need that on the first pass, so you know where to roll up to. Because after that, you get a little step in it, and then roll in, even though you adjust the rollers tighter, it just sort of locks onto that step. So it's only really for the very first roll you do. See my marks on the side? Just going to gently roll it up to that, and then it kind of gets hidden, yeah, when you're looking down on it. So if you look got those marks on the side, just look at it from the side, just roll it up to that. Obviously come out and double check what you did. Just push it a little bit further. Turn it around before, do one side then the other, obviously, before you adjust the rollers again, so you keep everything even. Tighten it up a bit, do that again, and already, just even with that very gentle first pass, I can already feel it hit a bump. There you go. Now obviously that flattened it, great, but it made it wider, so I don't know whether to say it's a good idea or not to go through that way. You go through that way, the metal is quite likely of like kinking sideways, and you'll end up milling it sort of a bit wonky. It won't be like a nice, it won't be like returning it to a perfect square again. It's a bit risky. I might try it, but I'm saying it's risky because again, you're working in gold and platinum. It's expensive metal, and if you mill it and it goes wonky, you can't sort of unwonky it, so you're stuck with it, and then by the time you turn up into a ring and file it straight again, it might be too thin than what you wanted. So it's a bit risky, but it does save you filing, so there's a chance you'll save metal, but there's also a chance you'll waste metal as well if it goes a bit wrong. Let me try it, and I'll talk about how much difficult it was. Last time I tried this, it went wonky. It felt a little bit out of my control, so that's why I'm nervous of it. But I'll try it again now. Annealed it, tap the ends straight, give me the best chance of rolling it without it flipping about. Just grip it in there, do it like this. Yeah, really, I would say this one's going all right, but I would say redraw your lines on the side. I feel can't quite see clearly enough the centre section, raised centre section edges. Okay, yeah, that's not too bad. You tap it straight, and you're a bit careful about how it goes in. It's possible. Okay, I'm going to anneal it and then do that again. Okay, back again, annealed, straightened, drew the lines on this time. Just tighten it a little bit. Up to my line. It bends. I would love to put it back through that way, but it's totally bent again. Okay, let's do the other side. So that goes this way. It does feel a bit messy doing this. So to show you that before I start working on it, it's alright, but you can see my pliers scraped across the thick a bit while I'm holding it and moving it about. It does seem to like really quite severely disrupt all the shapes you're working with. I did try it before a long time ago, I didn't like it. I sort of reminded myself it feels messy. I almost feel like you're causing trouble for yourself trying to avoid wasting metal, but you're making a shank at the end of the day. It's going to be cut-offs and stuff in there. I think I'm inclined to tell you, worry more about wasting the length rather than the width. You're going to have to file it anyway. How much metal are you losing? I don't know, compared to the extra time and difficulty you've got from trying to be clever with the mills. The width is just over 1.5. I quite like that width. It's still a little bit deep compared to that width, so I'm going to anneal it once more, just thin it off a little bit. I won't worry about any extra width going on there. That bit's still quite nice and chunky in the middle, and then we'll turn it up into a ring, and then I'll show you about tapping up the shoulder shape bit. I didn't bother filming it, same as what I just did. Annealed it, straightened it, just running through the mills, just one way this time, so I've got that 1.6 width, it's gone a little bit wider look, and then it's gone a little bit narrower, 1.3 deep. So I quite like those dimensions. Once you know what to do, I don't know if my video is making it seem a bit long-winded, but once you know what to do and you're confident, you've got experience of doing it just once, it's quite quick to mill out a bit of metal and shape it up into a shank. If you get on with it, it's not a huge task. Now we're turning up into a ring. I would get some half-round pliers and then just curve the middle section, because that's the thickest bit of metal, it's the hardest to curve. And then you want the curve to match your finger size. I always just make up a finger size, usually about K or L, sort of a small, average to small size. Just match that curvature, and then that's a good start. Good thing when you're working with thin shank wire, very easy to bend it about. Literally just do the whole job with my fingers. And at this stage, you know, I said I don't like milling it from the side too much. I got away with it this time. See, my shank is quite square or just rectangular. It's sort of what I wanted, working to measurements. I was deciding if that had gone wonky, like sort of gone sideways, a bit parallelogram, I have to file it flat. You have to put it flat both sides to make it like a normal looking ring, and that massively reduces the width. That's why I said I didn't really like it. If it goes wonky, you lose control of the finished width. So it's a bit risky, but I got away with it. I didn't enjoy it. I sort of don't really recommend it, but I did kind of do it and it worked. But up to you whether you want to do that or not. Mill it both sides. Almost feels like more trouble than it's worth, but I did save metal, because by milling it, getting the dimensions from milling, means less filing, less wastage to get the dimensions. So you need a kind of good join because the ring has to be strong to withstand all the hammering we're going to do on it, but it doesn't have to look too pretty. Because inevitably the size goes up, you have to cut it, size it back down again. And a sprungy bit of silver, I'd recommend after you've fluxed it, get some heat on the bottom half, takes the tension out of it. Still too hot to take this solder. Here we go. Okay, soldered up. Get it on the stick. Let's get it round. I do reckon it was pretty good, but I do reckon that metal was twisted a little bit. It's like it's a ring. Imagine making a ring and then, imagine that's a ring and then sort of twisting it, like rolling it, so it all kind of just started to roll inside out, like just the first step of that. I reckon this ring had that a little bit, just tapping it. Seems to be a gap all the way around one side than the other. That's why I went all the way around it tapping. So that's what happens when you do that, when you use the rolling mill. Even carefully, it does kind of distort the shank quite a lot. I'm going to say don't do it. Causes more trouble than it's worth, I think. So anyway, get it round, get it nice and circular, then get it flat, and now, see what we got? All that work was to get to this stage. We've got a ring with just one section thicker than the rest. That's what we're going to stretch up into the shoulders. So I put the ring on my metal block. My metal block has a rounded edge. It just come like this. If you have a metal block and it doesn't have a rounded edge, I would recommend grinding it on there and smoothing it off. It's so useful, and where I really recommend it is for this job, because we're about to get that fattest bit of the ring, put it right up to the edge, and then start tapping it with a hammer. And basically, what you're aiming to do is keep the inside edge against the finger just as wide, and just sharpen the top as it gets taller, so sort of stretching it up and sharper. Some people call it knife edge. I've always just known it as tap up, which is not a great name, but it just comes from that, tapping it up. So yeah, my hammer's a bit of an angle, and then just tap it, and I've got a bit of that motion going on. This is where that corner missing helps. Without that corner, I feel like I'm just banging the hammer on the actual metal. So there's a little bit of working around the ring as well. It's not just like that, bang, 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 at that angle. I'm sort of thinking about how the hammer is hitting the metal. And then work on both sides. You see that? Looks wider and flatter there. The top is narrower, it's coming up to a knife edge. The inside is relatively untouched. So it needs more work. You can see that I've tapped it more that side, so I'm going to put it on that way and tap it down towards there. You want that tallest ridge to be central to the ring. Just stop and look at it. Don't let the ring get too out of shape if it's starting to bend all over the place, but I would say this is quite easy to do. But let's stretch up a little bit more. Don't be afraid, don't be hesitant to stop and anneal it if you feel like you want to. I can tell this metal's hardened right up. Oh yeah, that's what I do. When you get to the last stage, you can literally hold it at an angle. So that flat is not like up in the air, it's like that's touching the metal, so you might want to just hold it at that angle. Same both sides. But down on it, relatively central. Doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to file it next, so you can tidy it up with a file. The flats both sides match. I haven't taken too much width out of underneath it. A bit of collateral damage, you're going to affect it a little bit because you're hammering on it. And then that measurement I took from the bottom of that bezel, but that bezel, the under bezel, looks too thick to me. So when I solder this in, I'm going to drop it down quite a bit. So end up filing it away. That's how to thin it out and get it to sit exactly how you want. But yeah, I think that's enough already, what I've got. So I'm going to work with that. So let's shape this up. So let's quickly shape this up again. I would put it back on your ring stick. It's likely gone off round again a little bit. Mine has, one side strangely. A little bit there as well. Okay, round. Get it, make sure it's flat. Check your point. Tallest part is like going down the center. From the flat to the sides, just going to blend it in. Just go slowly and carefully. I'm using my cut 2, so it's quite a slow file, quite a fine tooth file. Double checking that high point is down the middle, just looking at it like that way. Right, now let's get the back of the shank nice and even, then we'll start to shape up the shoulders. So I will do that by first of all getting rid of that lump off the solder joint. Okay, so lump, bit of a lump. File marks. I'll just file up to where it starts to go tall. And then being careful not to tilt my file one way or the other way. When I'm being accurate, I use these to go around it. 1.25, 1.27, 1.26, 1.26, 1.26. Oh, this is good. A little bit up there, look. 1.29. You'd be surprised, they can look really good, but when you actually do that, you find they're like off by like a 1/10 mil here and there. I was quite amazed by that. That was a really good result for a first attempt. And yeah, if you find it's a bit tall, you just have to file a little patch like that and then measure. Literally, I'd say 3-4 mil increments before you get it all good. And that's what I do before this would be, if it needed to be D-shaped shank, I would still do that. I'd get it really flat and perfect. Then I would D it off. And there's no chance of any like lumps and bumps and weirdness on there after it's like D'd off the corners. Anyway, get it good-ish. Let me paper that. There's no solder joint there, so a bit of a luxury. You can just choose wherever it is tallest. If I made it with a solder joint there, after filing it and stuff, I have to heat it up again, find the joint, make sure you cut through it. Because there's a danger, like say I cut through it there, but the joint is actually like here. When you put the collet in, you've got like a little joint right next to the collet. That's no good. Anyway, don't worry about that because we ain't got join in ours, so just wherever it looks best. See that? From the tallest point, don't quite file on top of it, just come away from it a little bit. Just file a flat, straight down. Obviously not so steep that you're going to cut into the shank thinner than what you just did there. Might even be easier to do it on the side. I think it's easier, but you can't see what you're doing exactly from the side. Anyway, there you go. Do the other side now. I'll just show you this before it's fully finished. I can explain sort of what I'm doing. Just find that both sides, yeah, but I want them both the same. I want it symmetrical. That one looks like it needs to sort of come in a little bit more, and then that one is a bit of a lump there, like it needs to blend into the shank a little bit more. So sort of thinning the shank further up, get it to blend in. That one can come across, and yeah, just try and keep the tallest part. And when the whole time I'm doing this filing, I'm thinking about that tallest point landing directly above the middle, not landing over there, not landing over there. You want it like that. Once you're happy with it, get it papered up. If this was platinum, definitely platinum, maybe not gold. Yeah, I probably would gold as well. I would get it all fully polished. So there's no scratches, or if there's any porosity, you're going to find it now. Might be able to do something about it before the collet goes on, because it's so much easier. Like imagine just trying to polish that smooth in platinum, which is really difficult to polish. It takes a lot of thorough work to get it nice and mirror finish. Imagine doing that across there. It's not too bad, right? It's quite easy. Imagine doing it with a collet in there. Very difficult to get it a nice mirror finish without sort of lines from bristle brushes and stuff. It's possible. It'll take you like 4 times as long though. So even the people who taught me, they were never strict on polishing things before they got put together. That was just very much my style, because at the end of the day, I would be polishing it to finish it, so I just made my life easier, made that stage easier. Do a better job as well, easier, and you do a better job when you've got clean access to parts. Double check your saw blade across the centre. And cut that straight down. Keep your blade going over the middle centre point. Be careful of the blade catching on the last little bit and pulling it out of shape. Yeah, if you go wonky with a saw blade, you have to file it back up straight. And yeah, it's going to balls it up. You're going to lose the height of your shoulders. This ring was in a perfect shape. It was perfectly circular, but now you cut it open, so it's like more vulnerable to being put out of shape, twisting, going out of roundness, twisting, scissoring. You've got to look after it, so we need to open it up to get that in there. So definitely I wouldn't do it in half rounds. I certainly wouldn't pull it open with my fingers. I'd carefully slide it up a ring stick, and don't do one side more than the other to keep it parallel with these lines on there. About 3 or 4 sizes up is enough for that collet to go in. Yeah, it's going to be something like that. Nice ring, right? I think my under bezel was a bit chunky, so I'm going to deal with that by just simply lowering it a little bit extra, and then when I filed out the inside, it will thin it right out. Be careful though, because it is really effective at making it look thinner, like more than you think. So have it sticking down a little bit, and you might be surprised it makes it look a lot thinner than what it is before you start filing. So be careful with doing that. But yeah, basically we've got to position it, and can you see there are little gaps? It doesn't just solder on like that. We've got to actually modify the ends so it really fits in snug all the way up. That big gap on the side, can't do that. We've got to cut a little step out the bottom half, so the whole side of that end of that shank fits up snug to the collet. Because it doesn't look good when you look down on a collet and you can see the top of that shoulder sticking out the side of the stone. That looks terrible. You've got to have that top of that shoulder tucked right in. And you do that by chopping out the bottom, getting that under bezel to sit right in there. What I do is I line it up in there, the height I want, in the middle, 2 times loop in my eye, my scribe in my hand. I just want to put a little line on the top where the under bezel is going to go up to. So that's that little dot I just put there, cutting this shape out, like imagine drawing a number 7 on this right hand side one. Got a bit of an angle on it, and then cut it out so that fits in there snug, and that will allow the top half to go right in. Set my dividers to that mark, and I do it on all 4 because you want to have ability to see on both sides. Helps you out. Just a little nick, and then do the rest of the work with needle files. Just fine tooth square needle file in there. Lock it in that groove. And push it up a little bit. So that one on the left is what I'm working on. Needs a bit more work. I'm just stopping it and checking it, seeing how it fits. So it has pulled the whole thing in closer, but I need to do more work. Still a bit, well, it just needs more work. It needs to go up more and then in more as well. So I got those right in, but I didn't think the tops of the shoulders were coming into the collet enough. It's because they're being blocked by the very first step of the collet. It's hitting that, so I've got to take the metal away from the bottom of that, and then that will allow the whole shank to come in more. So it's essentially just another step. So it's like 1, 2, and then just the top one is most inward. Not ideal, but you've got to do what you've got to do to make the collet fit nicely. So same again. I'll reduce these in and then see how much of a difference it makes. Might end up cutting those back even more, and then we can really get it in. Okay, so they're raised up now. There is one last adjustment to make it fit much better. Can you see where the top of that shoulder is poking through? It's a U shape. I filed it straight across, so it's not fitting nicely. If I just, from the end of it, it's like a little block on top here. If I just file up there, make it like a U shape, just that top little bit of the top one, that will fit in nice and snug there, and the whole thing will fit better. Watch me do that. So you just keep looking at it, figuring out what you can do to improve it. Just taking that bottom corner off so it's a bit more rounded, and I think That's the magic trick, the secret move that will make it fit in much better, taking these corners off. Let's try this. Okay, we got it. It clicks in there. Obviously I'll put it in really carefully, but it clicks in, stays there quite solid, nice and central. That middle claw is going straight down through the middle of the ring. So ready for soldering. What an absolute luxury to be able to do a solder with it, everything being held in position. So obviously carefully lined it all up, tilted it upside down, now I've just got it sitting there, ready for soldering. I like to do the solder on the back, underneath. I reckon that's the best place to put a piece of solder when you're doing this job, right there, and then just let it pull up into position. It's the easiest and most risk-free. If the solder floods on the surface, if it's just underneath, who cares, you can file that anyway. So I'm going to put a bit easy solder on. I'm tempted to go medium, but let's try easy. Sort of makes sense, being the last solder of the job. Just put that there to protect my pin. It's a little bit low in these tweezers. My spidey sense is saying that's going to do what I don't like about easy. It's just going to go black and then not solder. Bloody easy solder. Good, it's gone. Put a different bit on. You may have already figured out me and easy solder, we don't get on very well. We're not friends, never were. Very fast. That's another reason why I don't like easy solder. It just all of a sudden goes. There's like there's very little control. Well, it's soldered beautifully, but I might need to add a little bit more, but let me let it cool down and have a look around it first. So just checking my alignments, the position of it, all looks pretty good. Let's have a close look at that solder join. Yeah, I do want to say, it looks pretty good. It's the solder shot in there, it's sort of gone in there cleanly, but not enough, because I like solder. I think solder should go, give me something pointy, right up to the top and really fill that up so it's like fully maximum strong and filled up the gap. That solder's done everything good up the side and underneath, but hasn't come up enough. I'm going to leave it as it is, do the second solder first, then I'll go back and fill that up just so that side's secure before I work on that side again, just a bit of risk management. Okay, actually gonna put a bigger bit of solder on that one. Just hopefully don't have any accidents with it being easy. Never know, do you? Flood. And the first one went as well. Okay, so just added a little bit more solder. Got solder flooding right up to the top of the shank on both sides now. Give you a close-up look. You want to see solder on top. You want to see solder on top of the shoulder, and then right down the sides. And obviously, not having any like little steps at the sides of the bottom. So I made a bit of a mess, as I'd expect I would. Flooded down there. Look, that was from needing a few attempts to do it properly. So having a bit of a struggle with the solders on this, yesterday, not today, has reminded me, I used to call them 5 o'clock solders when I was an employed jeweller years ago. I used to call them 5 o'clock solders. It was always at the end of the working day. Things used to go wrong, like soldering. It's far more likely to go wrong. A bit of solder run here, there, whatever. It would never be straightforward. So I used to call it 5 o'clock soldering, and I would often just avoid it. If something's a bit high risk, a bit difficult, I would say I'll do it tomorrow morning. After a nice long night's sleep, you've got more attention, more energy, more enthusiasm. You're far more likely to do a better job than when you're tired and worn out and yeah, just thinking about going home. Like you haven't got your mind in the job. So watch out for 5 o'clock solders. So that's next. The solder joins need a bit of cleaning up, like with a rubber disc down the sides and stuff. I'm just going to leave them for now. I just want to get this under bezel thinned out. So unfortunately, a bit risky on the claws. I don't want to bend them out of shape, but I'm going to start it off. I think I'm going to do it with a little disc. I'll show you. I'll start off with a file at least. Let's get the main lumps off it. So let me just get the majority of this down with the file. Really taking a lot of weight out of it. I think I mentioned when I was making this, I said be careful with lowering it because it really makes a big difference. Even filing away a small amount of it makes a big difference on the actual depth of the under bezel. Okay, approach to the last bit, then I go onto a little mini grinding disc. Mainly working on the sides where it joins the shank. Coarse paper whizzer. Quite a big diameter one is good when you're matching the curvature as close as possible. Curvature of the internal circumference. It really is just the finisher offer. Just be careful, not holding it wonky. Okay, so I'm just looking around it, make sure it's not like tilting like that. Look straight down on it, make sure the collet's not rotated. Look at it from the side, make sure the collet's like nice in the middle, not like to the side and pointing down the wrong direction. Yeah, okay, that's pretty much done. Oh no, just going to use my rubber wheel a little bit, just on the side, just touch the solder joins, and then this is pretty complete. Bit of a burr coming off that inside edge. Sort of solder. Yeah, I've got a bit of solder there. I'm going to chuck this in a barreler, and then as for the mount, it's done. Okay, in the barreler for half an hour, so it's nice and bright. It's not polished, so it does look a bit liney. It's just papered, finished, and then barreled just to get it brightened up. I think that's a nice ring. I think that's a very sellable, nice ring as a proper piece of jewellery, and just with a nice quality diamond in that, made in 18 karat or platinum, that's a proper nice ring. So I'm finishing this video here, but I am going to do the setting. I'll do a video on the setting, but just time in. I worked on it all week. It's Saturday afternoon now. If I do the setting, this video will not be finished until early next week. Just with all the editing, it takes so much time. So I'm going to finish it now, but setting will come after. So I'll just show you my after making a ring checks. I'm looking at all the solder joins. You want your solder to be like underneath, all the way up the sides, and then looking down on it on the top, like under the top of that shank. the top of the shoulder. Yeah, and obviously the collar and everything should all be in straight. The ring should be nice and round, shoulders should match height and stuff, all symmetrical and nice. Yeah, I like this ring. I'm quite happy with how that turned out. Great information if you're looking to learn to make jewellery. This is like a design classic. You can't go too far wrong with this. If you get a customer, don't plan on getting engaged, just looking for what's available, this is really the one to advise them to get. It's simple, design classic, never looks old-fashioned in the future. Relatively straightforward to make, but as always, all the pieces I teach, you've got to work really carefully and keep things accurate for the finished result to be good. And yeah, and then obviously the price is controllable. You can work to a customer's budget with just buy what quality diamond or whatever is going in there. Lab diamonds now are flooding the market, so the prices of those coming right down. Potential very nice ring for little money, or a very nice ring for big money if you get a proper natural nice quality diamond in there. Make it properly, it's worth an expensive stone going in that. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I think that's worthwhile learning to do. Okay, so you've done all that work. Now's the final stage, the home run, setting the stone. Little disclaimer, I've got 23 years full-time experience as an employed professional jeweller, which I mention often. None of that experience involves setting. Well, very, very, very little. I'm trained up to be a diamond mounter. All my expertise is in the metal work, like making the mounts for stones. Actually setting the stones, my entire career, there was always a professional setter, someone who just did setting. They would always do all the stone work for the mounts that I made, so I've practiced a little bit over the last few years, but I'm far from an expert on compared to myself as a diamond mounter. So I'll show you what I do. There may be better information. You may already know more than me about setting, have more experience than me. So watch me do it, take it or leave it. Just put it there. I'll get it done. I'll do a nice job, but there may be better alternatives and tools I don't know about and stuff, and techniques that are tried and tested that I simply don't have experience with. So anyway, I'll show you what I do. Let's get it done. I've got one of these rotating ball vices, very good, except for only closes up to there. So when you've got thin shanks, it's no good. If you've got a similar problem, that's just a little bit of silver. I just made these. I just put these on. They just hook in and they close it up. They close it up enough to grip really thin shanks. So it's just a little solution to a problem. Anyway, that's for later, getting ahead of myself. The stone, you need to find out how the stone sits, carefully get it in there, make sure it's nice and horizontal, and then I'm going to mark the claws where I need to cut. So using this again, yes, I use this a lot. Put in my eye, bit of hands-free magnification, make sure that stone's sitting in there nice and flat. And then with the marker pen, not always a marker pen, sometimes a score line, this looks like a marker pen job. I just touch exactly in line with the girdle. It's nice when the pen works though. I find that helps. So look at the girdle of your stone. Is it sharp? If it's a diamond, it might be quite sharp. This is a CZ, so it's a bit fat. They're cut a bit wrong. So it's got a fat girdle, so I need to know that so I know how to cut it, where to cut it exactly. So double checking the stone against my line, I would set my dividers to the bottom edge of my line, and I'll mark all the claws. And this only works if you worked accurately at one of the beginning steps, before that collar was cut out, it was just a cone. Do you remember when I finished the cone, I was talking about the top and bottom of it being parallel, and a trick I used to achieve that was actually just leave it in there and file across the top of it. Doing that stage nicely helps you all the way at the last stage, cutting it, because those claws are all the same height, it's all nice and flat. This is going to work. If my collar's all wonky, if I'm using the top of the claws as a guide to mark down, it's going to be wrong for the stone. The stone will just sort of match the top of the wonky top of the cone, the claws, so not going to work. So being accurate at every step helps you on the next step, progressing to finish a nicer ring. So anyway, so I am selecting a heart burr, like a little diamond shaped one. This is where my experience might differ, and my advice might differ to experienced setters. They may think a bigger size is better. Likely they'll just go straight to what works and what is correct. I have to feel my way along a little bit because I'm sort of teaching myself and experimenting when I'm setting. That's why I'm a bit nervous giving you advice on how to do it. I think professional setters would give you better advice than me. Anyway, I'll get it done. You can tell I'm not confident, right, compared to doing the mount. Yeah, so with that heart one, I'm just going to cut a line on my mark where I'm comfortable it's correct, and just a gentle line, and then I'm checking the stone again. That's my definition of feeling my way along, just sort of double checking every move I make sure I'm doing everything correct. Got my optivisors on to help do a better job. Because that girdle is fat, having a sharp little triangular cut isn't really doing the job. I need something quite wide in there, so I may as well go straight to a cylinder burr. Although, can I use a cylinder burr? You can't really do it on 8 claw, 6 claw. Nah, my burr is going to hit the outside of the one next to it, trying to get to the inside of that one. Unless I hold it just... nah, it's too risky. Right, I can't do it. 4 claw, you can do it. You've got more space around each claw. This one's a bit tight. Okay, so I'm forced to use a ball burr, I guess. Don't know if that's going to show on the screen. It's not really clear on my camera screen, but there's a small ball burr next to the fat girdle. So what I'm trying to do is, there's the claw. I'm trying to cut like a little scoop out of it for that flat girdle to stick into. What I've seen other setters do online is they're not even trying to do that. They just cut a seat for the stone to sit on at the right height, and then from there up, the claw's just thinned out a little bit. So it's just like, how do I do this? That's the bottom of the claw, and then they cut there, and then the top of the claw is just a bit thinner, and then that just goes over the stone. That might be easier. That's not what I'm trying today. I probably should try that. It might be an easier way to get a really neat result. I sort of don't feel naturally inclined to do that, because in my mind, just making the top of the claw thinner, and then making it more flexible to bend over the stone. I don't know, I just like the idea of a notch cut out of it. It's just a notch out of a strong claw, rather than a claw with the top half weakened so it can bend over the top. I don't know, try it all. Do your own experiments. So grooves are cut correctly, stone sitting there as it should, it could be set, but the diamond mounter in me still sees it as a bit wrong, because I've cut a rounded shape for the size of a diamond shape, so it would be nice to have a burr which is at least just like a little round tabletop, so it's got a little bit of a flat cutting ability, so I can just push the edge of it around and square off those holes. Can't really do it. Okay, just to help square it off, tell you what I'm going to do. Put one of these in. That's a little bit smaller than my stone. I'm just going to touch each one individually. If I had one the same size as my stone, I might be able to just drop it straight down. But this is alright. This is just under... it's like 4.5. My stone's 5mm. Let me just touch it, square these off a little bit. Some setters talk about spinning the motor backwards. I've tried that in the past, I didn't get on with it. But it basically reduces the cutting ability of these. This is a bit awkward to do nicely. So no, I didn't like what that did. Being big, you can only really hold it in exactly the correct position and spin it. I don't think I was moving it about a bit, so I feel like I've scratched it up in wrong places. So I'm using the same tool but a much smaller version. I'm just going to tidy up what it did. That was a mistake, trying that. I mean, really, I should be practicing on things that I'm not making videos on teaching. Yeah, well. Yeah, I understand why setters choose to spin these backwards. They are a bit grabby and severe when you're trying to do these careful little cuts in exactly the right moment, in exactly the right place. Right, so when I was working, employed, the setter would do this much work to it, like preset it, so the stone will just go in easily. And it would come back to me and I'd polish it all out, get rid of all the burrs and stuff and just get it ready for setting basically. So it's like preset now. So as there are burrs and dust and stuff all over it, I'm just going to get a little bristle brush, just clean out the inside, smooth it out. Also, all your collets should be all bright and clean inside before stones go in, especially clear stones. Be careful on the polishing motor when you've got a mount with no stones in. Claws are very catchy and you can, this has happened to me, you can have a freshly finished mount that even happened to me on a mount that someone else made. I was just doing the polishing bit to finish it off and it catches on the mop, bangs around inside the polishing motor and you bend all the claws, totally misshape the ring. Good day at work. I did it to a ring, yeah. The diamond that was going to go in it, £60,000. It's funny now, 15 years later. It wasn't when it happened. It was alright, I didn't break the ring, but only because it happened in a building full of professional jewellers, it can be sorted out. Nothing broke, but yeah, it was all bent up. Not great. Just get that in there nicey nice. A nice little touch is to rotate it so the facets line up with your claws however you want. Okay, right, and I'm gonna start it off with pliers. I like these. Just flat nose, not too wide, not too thin. I'm going to put my hand over it and then looking at it from the side, clamp the claws tight. Obviously bending them both the same. Just gently pinch it, move on to the next two. Just making sure it's not tilting wrong. So just a simple pusher. Do one claw, then do the opposite side. Just helps make sure the stone doesn't start tilting. So there you go, there's the finished ring. I do like it. Everything sort of went to plan, except for I do wish my claws were a little bit more narrow going up. They're a little bit wide, which made, obviously when you're setting it on, looking at it on top, they're a bit overbearing, so that's why I had the idea to sharpen them up. 5mm stone you can get away with being really quite thin, more than you imagine. Bigger stones obviously need the width for the strength and stuff. But apart from that, that is a classic engagement ring. It's just a 6-claw. It's quite simple, but you do it well. When people look closely and see all the swoops and little V's and stuff, and a nice thin under bezel, I think, is a good move. Thicker they go, the more overpowering they are. They make it look all chunky unnecessarily. Yeah, with thin band. I think it's a nice ring, so worth making one.